All right, another interesting story for you here. It has now just been revealed the extent of FBI infiltration of largely sort of Black Lives Matter protests in the city of Portland, Oregon. So there's New York Times tear sheet up on the screen. The headline is the FBI deployed surveillance teams inside Portland protests. Federal agents infiltrated Portland's unruly racial justice protests, dressing to blend in, capturing clandestine video. The tactics raised internal concern. That line is actually really significant because, at least according to this reporting, the surveillance and the infiltration was so aggressive that even people within the FBI were like, whoa, we may have gone too far on this. That really tells you something. I'm just going to read the opening piece here. They say the FBI set up extensive surveillance operations inside Portland's protest movement, according to documents obtained by the New York Times and current and former federal officials, with agents standing shoulder to shoulder with activists, telling vandalism suspects to guide the local police toward arrests and furtively videotaping inside one of the country's most active domestic protest movements. The breadth of FBI involvement in Portland and other cities where federal teams were deployed at street protests became a point of concern for some within the Bureau and within the Justice Department who worried it could undermine their First Amendment right to wage protest against the government. Some within those departments worried that the teams could be compared to FBI surveillance transgressions of decades past, such as the COINTELPRO projects that sought to spy on and disrupt various activist groups in the 50s and 60s. So they went so far. I mean, we already sort of suspected Ken Klippenstein has done some reporting in this regard, but this is another layer of information about the surveillance, and the infiltration was so aggressive, even the FBI was like, we may have gone too far.
Yeah, and this is why whenever we cover January 6th and potential Capitol Police informants and more, we always try to stress that these are things which go both ways. And now you have evidence that they were actually happening around the exact same time.
Yeah.
This happened right after Biden was inaugurated,
right.
Krystal, right in the month of January.
Same time as like the Gretchen Whitmer plot, same general time frame.
Right all in there, okay? Like you point to this and you actually see that there was a broad mandate within the FBI where they get to define whatever group they seem as extreme, and they're able to infiltrate them and use all sorts of sketchy behavior. We're talking about furtively recording people, cameras, directing crowds towards different things. That doesn't sound like influence at all. And look, you know, whenever you're talking about this with January 6th, you get labeled some conspiracy theorist or far right-wing nut. Anybody can look at this. It's right here. It's a FOIA records. It's a public record for what exactly they were doing, and that there were concerns even within the, you know, the FBI themselves that they were moving, you know, and acting in a way which was going to come under public scrutiny, and that's exactly what has happened. But at the end of the day, I continue to see a justification for this over and over again. I saw some article over the weekend. It was like FBI agents infiltrated the KKK and they found, you know, this, and this, and the KKK is much stronger than you would ever believe. And this thing was spread like wildfire all over. I'm like, that's what they want you to believe.
Yeah.
Like, look, maybe. I personally, I doubt it. In the year 2021, I mean, they want and to spread a narrative, and like I said, which one of these stories gets more pickup? The FBI being involved in BLM and also on January 6th Capitol riots, or some quote-unquote warning from an FBI agent that the KKK has secret plants and cop organizations all across the American South? That one, the latter one got picked up, which justifies what? Exactly more of this type of behavior.
The important thing here is that you don't have to feel like these Antifa protesters were good people.
Yes.
You don't have to feel like the, you know, Proud Boys or whoever are good people, even though I think a lot of them are feds too. Anyway.
No, 100%, yeah, I think you're right.
But everybody has rights, and those rights should be valued and protected because it does not matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, especially if you are in any way a threat to the established status quo, and we have seen this throughout history. They will come after you and they will trample on those rights. Glenn, of course, all over this story, and he tweeted, you know, their own definition. He says, when the U.S. security state says domestic extremism poses the greatest threat to the homeland, they'll say the single greatest threat is white supremacy, but their list of domestic extremists includes all forms of anti-establishment dissent on the left, right, and otherwise. What he tweets there is their definition of what domestic violent extremists are and can look like. It mentions things like animal rights, environmentalists, pro-life or pro-choice, opposing capitalism, opposing corporate globalism. They even have a cat for anti-racist. So this does not, discriminate against you left or right. Just because you don't like the people who are being surveilled today doesn't mean that you might not like the people who are being surveilled tomorrow, and you might not like any of them. You still should care about people's basic rights under the Constitution being protected at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that definition, anything about perceiving government overreach, negligence, or illegitimacy, that qualifies you as a domestic violent extremist under the FBI. That is like the whole country who has, he's like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. After this 2 years of this, you want to trust them? Absolutely not. I guess that qualifies me. Please don't put me on a watch list. This is the problem, which is that it justifies all sorts of crazy overreach, which people are, totally fine with in one context and not fine with in another. And that is why, if there is any sort of lesson that could be learned, is that the fact that the FBI was running infiltration operations into both domestic anarchy groups and, quote unquote, right-wing groups around January 6th and BLM protests at the exact same time, that shows you exactly, clear as day, the power of government overreach and the problem that it faces. And right now, the biggest threat that we face is that not enough people are calling this out. Biden and them considered that new violent extremism law in the Congress. I mean, we had Joy Reid and them comparing right-wingers in America to like baths in Iraq. They're like, we need bath party members. We need that worked out real well. Actually created a domestic violent insurgency
so
in Iraq, which they're still dealing with.
You should follow
right.
The things we did in the war on terror in Iraq.
Follow the model which created ISIS. That's a real smart strategy. Or we could move in a direction where we don't have as many violent groups because we try to recognize where the root of a lot of that comes from.
Listen, I've said this before.
Yeah.
You either believe in democracy and you put your trust in it, and sometimes that's scary because you have less control, or you go in the direction of a police state.
Right.
And you can see what path we're on right now. Those are the only two options, and so you should be fighting like hell to avoid the police state direction, no matter who you are, where you stand on the ideological spectrum, and how you feel about the people who are currently being most pursued by the police state.
Yeah, and I just think I can't underscore it enough, which is that, you see anybody who ever talks about feds being involved on January 6th is like, you're playing right into Trump's talking points or whatever. Take Trump out. It's nothing to do with it, It's nothing, and nobody's absolving the idiots who strolled through the Capitol on January 6th either.
Some people are absolving them, and they shouldn't do that.
We are not.
We are not here absolving them, and we are not absolving Donald Trump. He is the primary reason that day was so horrific, which we always try to say. However, the idea that it's like, oh, you guys are nuts and you're conspiracy theorists, that there might have been feds involved. Come on. I mean, look at the history.
It happened here too.
Every single significant protest movement or whatever that we say, it comes out later that there were feds infiltrated. That's what they do. Yeah. So it's not, we don't know, but it's certainly not crazy to think that it's possible and to ask some questions about it, because that would be relevant for all of us who want to understand the real reason why January 6th ended up being such a horrific, catastrophic day for the nation. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it, you get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.